Hello everyone, I'm Andrew Connell. I'm a professor here in the music department at James Madison University, and we're going to be demonstrating a couple different Brazilian rhythms, the samba and the bossanova, that probably common rhythms you'd find when you're looking for, say, Latin charts for your bands. We're going to kind of play a couple different tunes and then demonstrate, especially the rhythm section, which is the key to these rhythms, is what the rhythm section does. And I'm assisted by some wonderful students from the JMU Jazz program. So we've got Nick Adams on trumpet, Halen Anderson on trombone, Jonah Barnett on guitar, Cole Sheffer on bass, and Clay Zimmerman on drums. So we'll start out playing a samba. And this is a tune by the great Brazilian pianist João Donato called Minha Saudade, which translates loosely as My Longing. All right, so let's break down the samba rhythm. Always in this, there's this balance between instruments that are playing on the beat and then instruments that are syncopated. And then within this, you'll hear that there's kind of a balance of two sides of it. One side is off the beat, one side is on the beat in the actual pattern that the instruments play. We're going to start with, we'll do each instrument in turn, so we're going to start with the drums. And what the drums are doing is a distillation of what you would have heard in a large kind of samba percussion ensemble, taking the individual instruments and putting them in the drum set. So at the center, this was a large drum called a surdo, which is the bass drum. And you'll hear Clay will play on the bass drum this pattern, which is basically happening in, often the Brazilians think of it in 2/4, so it would happen on 1 and 2 straight quarter notes. More often, you're probably going to see your parts written in 4/4, but you always make sure you feel them in 2 in cut time. So basically, that would be half notes. You can hear the 16th anticipating. And that's at the center. Everything surrounds it, and you'll hear that the bass is actually playing that part as well. On top of this, there will be the ride cymbal, the hi-hat, plays a constant stream of 16th notes, but with a particular accent pattern in it that we'll discuss in a minute. We may play with the bass drum so you can hear them both together. So you can hear how he's accenting this. Now the next part here is what he plays on the snare, usually with a cross stick, and this is replicating this small little instrument called a tamborim. And you'll hear on this, it actually starts off the beat. So the first half of the pattern is off the beat, the second half of the pattern is on the beat. Adding in the hi-hat, so adding the hi-hat. One, two, keep doing and I'll say the beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Right. And And this part can be moved around the drum set a little bit, but it starts with this tight sound with just the hi-hat. And if you noticed when they played Menino Saudade, when he went to the bridge, he moved to the ride cymbal, so you can kind of open it up that way. Right, and you notice he's doing little variations with the snare drum there. So once you get the feel of this off the beat, on the beat, you can kind of move it around a little bit. But you want to start with what he was playing at the beginning there. Now the guitar will do very similar to what the snare is doing on this. So why don't you demonstrate just on a single chord. This is what it sounds like with the drums against that. Yeah, okay. See how they work together there, and again, Jonah is doing slight little variations. Once you get that rhythm internalized, you can kind of start playing with it a little bit. And then at the center of it all is the bass, which is locked in with the drummer's bass drum, and its basic point is basically playing that boom, that doom, and always emphasizing that second beat, right? That heavy beat. So boom, that. Boom, which is what the big bass drum plays. So why don't you play a little bit of that? Notice he's adding in the 16th a little bit. You can do that. Let's hear that with the bass drum, how they lock together. And it's very important to have this. You have this instrument that's playing basically on the beat, and then the syncopation goes against it. So you always have this tension you want to maintain between the bass and the bass drum, just outlining the steady beat, with the syncopation in the snare and in the guitar. The two lock together, and that creates this groove that is so infectious in samba. So let's play a little bit of samba, and let's start out with just on one chord for like 4 bars, and then let's move into that progression, the A section of Menino Saudade. Excellent. So hopefully this will give you some ideas of how to construct the rhythm section for playing a samba. So the next rhythm we're going to look at is the Bossanova, and Bossanova is just another variation on samba that was developed in the 1950s in Rio. And you can think of it as a slightly slower, a little bit more intimate, kind of laid-back version of samba. So to demonstrate this, the combo is going to play Antonio Carlos Jobim's famous song, Wave. Okay, let's talk about bossa nova. And I said bossa nova is a variation on samba. As I mentioned at the beginning, it tends to be usually slower. It's a little bit more kind of a mellow, intimate kind of sound. So we'll do the same thing as we did before. We'll break this down into the constituent parts. And you'll hear that a lot of them are basically the same as in samba. So we start with the drums, and the bass drum and the hi-hat are basically doing the same things. So if we now the difference comes in what he does with the hi-hat. Now the last one with the samba, we actually started on the offbeat in the first half of the phrase and then going to the downbeat. For bossa nova, we're going to start on the downbeat. So demonstrate. He has a couple different, Clay has a couple different patterns that he does on the snare. So we'll do first the first one. Okay, and then here's a variation on that. Okay, and there are many others. I should point out that samba and bossa nova are whole languages in the same way that jazz is a language, that funk is a language. So what we're giving you is basically some basic rhythms. There's many different players have different interpretations of this music. But once you learn these and you get these rhythms internalized, it allows you to have some flexibility. But you want to start with these basic rhythms. So let's do the guitar. He's doing a pattern that kind of matches what's going on with the snare here. Also, another thing you notice, especially if a guitarist is playing solo, accompanying a singer, you notice with his thumb that he's playing the bass notes, again, on the beat with the syncopated chords after it, which is the kind of style. You leave that when you're playing with a bass player, right? But certainly when the guitar is playing solo, you want to have, that gets the full kind of rhythm all within the guitar. So why don't we do first just the guitar and the drums together, so we can hear just a little bit of groove, and then we'll talk about the bass. Okay, good. So you can see how they work together, and then again, the bass is the center. This is the heartbeat, comes from the bass. So would you play just a little bit of the progression? And again, you're going to be playing basically mostly half notes with some little variations here and there. So again, by itself, it sounds like there's not a lot happening, but it really is the thing that anchors the whole rhythm section together. So let's play the A section of Wave with all the parts fitting together now. Very nice. So hopefully this gives you some tools to work with when you're working with your bands for working on Brazilian rhythms, the samba and bossa nova. So thank you.